Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Denise. Welcome. There we go.
Hello.
Hey, Sarah.
How's everybody?
Good.
Good.
You?
Thank you.
Johnny?
Good afternoon.
Johnny, good morning. Good afternoon.
Hi, Lee.
Hey, Sarah.
Have classes started yet?
Oh yeah, definitely. But I'm working from home, so that's makes life a little bit better.
Mhm.
Yep, yep.
Helen, um, do we know anyone who said they
The person I heard definitively was Allison.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, she has a class right now, I think. See, still waiting on, oh gosh, a couple more. You guys find my responses helpful, you and Lee, to your questions? You guys had a lot of questions, so I try to be pretty thorough.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
we just threw all our ideas out there and trying to see, where we can make progress on or what the city would benefit from. And we can put that under the microscope and see if we can, make a case for asking for more funding or get shovel-ready projects for grants, because
Absolutely.
the Biden plan is very ambitious. And one of the things that he says is all cities that are 100,000 or more, he's going to push for funding to get more mass transit systems and EV stations and all that. And we are in that category. So yeah, I mean, as soon as there's funding released from the feds, we need to be ready with whatever projects you guys have come up with in the city. So that's the only thing I can think of right now. But if there are
And
other groups that are working on things, we can go talk to them and see how we can collaborate and help each other out.
we need to push it because GM says by 2035, all of their vehicles going to be completely electrical except for heavy trucks. That seemed a little aggressive, but that's what they threw out there.
Well, most of European countries are already saying that they have that on their books for a while. They're not going to sell gasoline cars anymore.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. Yeah. So Sarah, she's gonna have to trade in that hybrid for a completely electrical very soon.
I know. I mean, I'm having these guilt. I told Rajesh that I needed to talk to him about my the pros and cons of the car, but I mean, I really like it. However, I'm having this intense guilt because even in the hybrid electric mode, I don't get as good a mileage as I did with my Prius. So, oh wait, what's that? Ah, sorry, that's me. Sorry about that. Okay. So yeah, I got 43 miles per gallon with the Prius. I'm so sorry, guys. 43 miles a gallon with the Prius, and
Right.
with the, if I'm mostly in the city, then the electric's good. But if I'm on the freeway at all, it's more like 34 miles a gallon. So that's a difference. And I'm having like this environmental guilt about it.
Right. Right.
But
my brother bought a plug-in hybrid by Honda, and we went through a detailed analysis because both of us are engineers, and The thing is, if we lived in California, I would have no problem with plug-in cars because most of the electricity or half of the electricity comes from renewable source. Unfortunately, plugging in North Carolina, 30% of your power still comes from coal. So you're running your car on coal. It's a little sad, but that's how it is.
So Helen, do we have the right number? Can we start, or do we need to wait for more people?
I have just asked our tech support because technically I think we do need that one more to make 6 for the quorum because I am just the staff support, but we'll see.
Welcome,
I
Council.
haven't heard from anybody having technical difficulties, so I don't know if it's just taking a little longer or what today.
Well, while we're waiting, one of the things I was so
these contracts. So,
I want to recognize and thank Councilmember Mundy, one of our newest council members who will be sitting in this meeting. So welcome. I'm glad you can make it.
Thank you, Helen. I sat in with your group. When was it, Rajesh? About September, October? It was in the fall.
Was about 6 months when we knew you were the only one running for your seat.
So I'll try not to make it 6 months before I join you again, okay?
No, your support is always helpful because, we're basically trying to
But okay, so I will go ahead and call the meeting to order. And could we start by doing a roll call? Please, this is Sarah Pesic, chair of the committee.
I'm Rajesh Keshwari.
Denise Terry.
Lee Stackhouse.
Leah Lavin.
And Helen Poplowski, staff support.
Johnny Taylor, staff support.
I just said it, but I'll say hello again. Kevin Mundy, council member for the Southwest Ward and the entire city.
Was that everybody? Yeah, okay, great. Helen, are you the host? Can you share your screen as far as the agenda goes?
Yes, let me do that. having trouble doing that again.
Do you want to just, actually, I will pull it up as well, but what was the first thing on the agenda? It was meeting minute approval.
Yeah, actually, I think I left that off the agenda, but yeah, we do need to do that.
I'll move
We
to
need to-
approve. I'll move to approve the previous minutes.
Second.
Is there a second? Thank you, Leah. I'll vote to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Aye.
Any nays? Well, then meeting minutes have been approved. Okay, it looks like Helen, you're starting to share. Great, thank you.
Yes.
We're going to do the subcommittee report outs, and at least for my subcommittee, I mean, not mine, the one that I am on, the green jobs, all of us are on right now. So in case there's anyone else who's going to join us later, I wonder if should we do ours first, or is there another subcommittee that can do a report out while we wait for other people, or should we just assume, Helen, that no one else is going to join considering the time?
You guys can start. The recycling subcommittee members, neither are here, so I will do their report out on their behalf. But I believe, and then the tree subcommittee folks, but I'm not sure that they have had a chance to meet yet anyways, so we'll start with who's here.
Yeah, Helen, if you could start the recycling one, and then
Okay.
we can take it from there in case other people join.
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to. And just a quick reminders, the members of the recycling subcommittee are Allison and Stephanie. And so they had their first meeting back in December. And we spent a good portion of that meeting just trying to figure out the best way to target the recycling issues, both to help the city and to get more education out there for the public. And as Allison mentioned in the last meeting, she happens to work for a company where they do a lot of work around trying to educate people about how to recycle packaging and various items like that. And ultimately they came up with and started brainstorming around ideas to help answer people's questions, because as we all know, there are always a lot of questions around recycling, from what you can and can't recycle, but then going further into the why, and then getting into the nitty-gritty and the details of it, to see if that helps people increase their understanding of why it's important to do it right, and then maybe encourage and hopefully people will do it correctly more often, share that information more when they find that out, things like that. And so one idea they talked about was doing a potential video series. So regularly have videos made maybe once a month or so, where we collect a bunch of FAQs and then have somebody in a video answering those questions, but then changing the messenger, changing the person in that video. That was one idea. Then they've also thought about ways to target individual homes, whether that be through cart stickers. So people, it's there when they're throwing it out. It's something that they see maybe a little bit more frequently. And those were the two biggest ideas that they were pretty excited about. So,
hey, Helen, Stephanie.
Oh, hi, Stephanie. Good. If you want to jump in at any point, please. And
I was just saying that, let me just get my headphones, but I was like, I would frame them less as FAQs and more as like what we were talking about, with like recycling conundrums. Like,
right, yes.
You're in this kind of like funny situation, almost like a little bit like, like kind of like a funny kind of FAQ, sort of like a, I'm trying, like, I cannot, the throwing out the pizza box, but it's like after a night with like, a late night pizza party or whatever it is, like some kind of like, so they're a little bit like funny, and viral in that way. I also like about the sticker, like when in doubt, throw it out. I think because the idea of like, if you don't know if it's recyclable, better to be on the safe side. But though that might not necessarily be the but some sort of like kind of sticker with like a catchphrase that you put on the inside of the recycling bin or on the top of the recycling bin that would remind people of like the kind of, it's complex. So be cautious about what you're putting in. But yeah, that it would kind of have this kind of lightness that we were hoping, because the conundrums can be kind of funny to try to figure out the answers. That's all.
And Stephanie and Helen, did you guys discuss, because I can't remember the year that the last fact sheet that was sent out to the houses, like the do's and don'ts of recycling, like I'm pretty sure that that's old and things have changed. Is that correct?
Things probably haven't changed. I imagine that went out when we signed the most recent contract, which would have been in 2012. We have updated that visual and that sort of half sheet, but that really gets given more to people who are requesting new carts or new service at their residence, who maybe weren't familiar with recycling before. Or people who, we do get calls occasionally through CityLink from folks who are specifically requesting that be sent to their home. So I don't know that we do a mass mail out of those when we update them, but again, that is what we upload to our website. And it's there and available for the public in that way. But the rules themselves, I don't think have changed since, I don't know how long now, but yeah.
Okay. And another thing that we talked about at a previous meeting that at least I would find helpful is if there are things that we cannot put in the city recycling system, provide alternative locations if there is another entity in the city that takes those items. For instance, fabric scraps to Goodwill, or like I take my number 5 plastics to Whole Foods because they have a different pickup, right? So, adding that, like to what Stephanie was saying, like if there's a little info, like you can't put it in your city recycling bin, but you can, and like zoom to whatever partner organization says, yeah, tell people to come and bring it to us,
Yes, I believe actually that Allison did bring that up and gave some examples of cities who have something called like a waste wizard, like Durham has on their website as an example, but she did bring that up and also mentioned that it would be helpful. So, but I was doing the best I could from that meeting. So but that was mentioned and we're including that in our notes.
Does anyone else have questions on this subcommittee? Oh, Rajesh?
Yes, I was approached by the Downtown Business Partnership and several businesses downtown asking about, and I know we discussed it about a year ago. We always talk about recycling only for residential or domestic kind of recycling, but businesses have a lot of, the restaurant sector has a lot of cans and bottles and everything, and they would love to see some action on that front. And I know that is a difficult thing, but some of the businesses are willing to pool their resources and come up with some sort of negotiated contract with the city or with the city's partner.
So to that point, the businesses themselves, we don't collect businesses unless they also use the rollout garbage carts. So really small businesses. And so the businesses downtown, also due to lack of space, of course, but those folks would likely have to create their own contract with whatever company they decide to go with. But we as the city with our current contract, would not be able to extend that service to those folks.
So I'll just throw my 2 cents out, just some thoughts I had very briefly. If people knew more, I think that's the bottom line. possibly tours of the recycling plants. I know, they try to connect people with the police department and leadership, Winston-Salem, various other things who go through places. Maybe there could be a recycling kind of tour. Smaller bins or something in the house would make it easy. Like I stack cardboard by my trash can in the house, but something that you could sort out right in the house so that people aren't tempted to just throw it in the trash so that it's not sitting there. Soda bottles, 2 liters, whatever. And then I don't know if stuff can go out the information can go out in the water bill from time to time. I know different things have come out in the water bill. So this is just coming from my point of view.
I do remember we used to have the bins that went into the house. I'm sorry, I didn't know my video wasn't on, but they were the green bins. But I do believe that was before we got the rollout bins within the city. Does anyone remember those?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
Okay. And I hate to tell you this, but I rarely open my water bill, so.
Well, and we also have people who get it electronically now, so.
Right, yeah. But that
Yeah,
would be
right. But see, I want to keep the perspective of people who live on the east side.
Yeah.
Because that's where I'm coming from.
Mhm.
And so just trying to keep that in front of people too. A little different.
Yeah, I mean, I still read the water bill input every time I get it. And that's an existing vehicle for getting information out. It's not like you have to create a like you have to put the work into getting it in there, obviously, but you don't have to create a separate like special mailer.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, it's like, Denise is right. Like you could, whatever the group decided to put in, if Helen has the means to get the messaging in, it would reach people who actually open their water bill, Kira. How long have you not been paying your water if you never opened it?
Well, it gets paid. As you know, it just gets paid online. It's like, oh yeah, it's time.
But also you could just ask that whoever's requesting that the information be put in also provide an electronic copy. So if you don't open your water bill and you do everything online, that information would also be available for you.
Mm-hmm.
Rajesh, yes.
Question. So basically we're talking about education of the public to reduce contamination. That's the one thing I'm hearing very clearly, and explaining how we do things and all that. In addition to that, do we have any new ideas on expanding or enhancing, even on a trial basis or a mock-up basis, other streams that I know there's a big movement in Winston-Salem. I was a part of that. I don't remember what they're called exactly, but on Facebook, they would like to see composting and all that. So could there be a trial basis?
That has not been a part of the conversation with the subcommittee. And I think I've mentioned this before, but on a citywide scale, residentially, of course, Gallons now offers that option, as well as the established, Cobblestone and other locations like that. I know there aren't very many, but we don't have the facility as a city right now to take any organic matter that isn't yard waste, or, the leaves and the brush that are collected as well. So, that type of facility, since we don't have it, would be a huge expense to build. And then of course, would be separate from the other curbside programs that we already have. So at this point, it's a huge undertaking. And we've looked into it, and that's how we know how big of an undertaking that is. And we've heard from other cities also, but those cities who have been able to do it also needed to already build a new facility, and they were able to incorporate it into that. So there are a lot of speed bumps in that one that, and especially with Gallons already providing the residential, until the demand is up and they reach out to us for help or assistance, which I honestly, I don't see that happening. They seem to have a really good operation and a really good facility. But yeah, I mean, I don't know that the need or even the use, if we were to do it, would outweigh the cost for us in a quick enough payback period, if that makes sense.
Helen,
I say
this is-
something about composting
Sure.
very briefly. Again, I go back to the way I'm doing things is from an individual perspective. You're talking on a large scale, and I'm thinking individually. So if
Yes.
individuals learn to compost and what they could compost, there's no reason why they couldn't do that right there where they're at.
Absolutely.
So I also am working on that and waiting to see if I receive some funds to actually do that with some residents in my neighborhood, is to actually purchase these little turning compost things to put in their yard so that they can actually do that. So I'm already there.
Thank you, Denise. That's really good to hear.
And Helen, this is Kevin. What I was going to recommend is possibly presenting that idea to the Urban Food Council,
Yes.
particularly urban farmers, because they would benefit from having that compost. And for those people who do want to do it on a neighborhood level, then that gives you some more outposts. Maybe not, it's not the responsibility of this committee, but a different committee could take that up on a smaller scale for neighborhoods.
Yes, and I've also mentioned this before, but that would also be a good opportunity for a neighborhood potentially to collaborate with the county, who already does a lot of the education around composting for our area. And so, you know, they'd be able to at least be able to figure out how to start it themselves. So, but they're always a good resource as well to keep in mind for that type of project.
I love the discussion, but I want to make sure we get through the other subcommittee report outs. And this composting, and someone mentioned gallons, actually, I think is a good segue to green jobs, because we may be running into a couple areas of important environmental action that may not easily fit into the short-term plan that the city has, but there might be opportunities for small businesses or nonprofits or job training programs. I mean, that could also create value while also serving an environmental need. I'm thinking immediately of, you know, some recycling opportunities, like if there is a niche for I mean, a community I used to work with in Puerto Rico was taking bottles that they could not afford to send off island and using them to create countertops. And then there were jobs created, and they were not spending as much money on disposal, et cetera, et cetera. So transitioning to green jobs, I do not need to be the person speaking on that, even though I am in that group. Does someone else on the committee want to just give a quick overview for us? Leah, Denise, Lee, anyone?
Denise, do you want to, or do you want me to take a stab? Or
I would like for you to go ahead if you would.
Sure. We met and talked about what are our goals for this subcommittee, and particularly given the time frame. So we're hoping to have a work plan for our whole committee on sustainability in June. Is that right, Helen? So between now and June, what can we accomplish for green jobs and equity? And who's already doing this work that we need to connect with. So we spent some time brainstorming who might be working on green jobs and equity. And Denise sent some thoughts. Lee knows some people. We're gonna put together a spreadsheet and begin to contact those people and ask what they're working on, if they're working on anything that we could potentially help with as a committee, given that we don't have a budget and we see our role as primarily coordinating and raising awareness around. So if Neighbors for Better Neighborhood has a project that they think we could help get more partners involved with or raise awareness to, then we want to be able to do that. We also talked about educating people who could fill green jobs and doing that sort of, neighborhood kind of education. And then also educating people who might be able to hire in the green sector. So like, is Wake Forest University planning a thing that might count as a green job? And if they are, can we as a committee lobby and encourage them to really proactively seek diverse candidates and not just whoever their normal internal applicants are, not that they wouldn't be diverse. So that's what we talked about. I might be forgetting some things. We also talked about looking at the federal response and whether there are any resources coming down through the Biden administration that we should be aware of.
Does anyone have questions or comments on this subcommittee?
I also just want to add that I did talk with Alan Younger. Alan Younger is the director of Foresight Tech Small Businesses. And you may have seen, like Spotlight on Small Businesses or some of the newsletters, the different things that they put out. But he said he would love to work with the subcommittee as far as green jobs, because they have not addressed it in any specific way. But he would love to, partner with us in terms of just educating, new businesses along those areas. If we wanted to put something into a Spotlight on Small Businesses or newsletter, things of that nature, he would be more than glad to partner. Or if we wanted him to come in and share with us, other things that they're doing and what they do, then he'd be glad to do that as well.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and Rajesh has been involved in green drinks for a while, which is, sustainability focused people as well as businesses. And, I wonder if there are opportunities for collaboration or networking within that organization, Rajesh, like with regards to green jobs?
Yes. So Green Drinks got started many, many years ago, 20 years ago or something. And I was part of it in Austin, Texas, where it was mostly a job seekers place to go network. What we've been doing in Winston-Salem is the Green Drinks I started about a couple years ago was mainly to get different organizations together, all the nonprofits together to discuss how we can help each other. And there have occasionally people have come asking for networking contacts and everything. So that would be an amazing way to get young people to connect and get ideas or circulate resumes once COVID goes away. So that could be something to encourage.
And to add on to that point, something that I would like to reiterate that I heard this group talking about is the equity piece and making sure that we are reaching out to groups who can then really benefit from training for these jobs and getting an extra boost, and just keeping in mind that at the green drinks that I've gone to, the crowds haven't been too diverse in terms of, you know, other folks who are showing up to learn and utilize that opportunity. So I would keep that in mind. It's definitely a great idea, but maybe, you know, looking into different ways to market that opportunity to draw that different crowd.
And so, Helen, can I ask a question? So while we're talking about possibly the creation of green jobs, is there any consideration to maybe reaching out once we kind of figure out what our recommendations are going to be, the city reaching out to their lobbyists to possibly advocate at the legislative level to bring funds to the city for the creation of those green jobs?
So, Amber, I'll say that the impression that I got, and somebody in this subcommittee, if I am off base, please correct me. It sounded like this committee, the subcommittee, was more geared towards not necessarily creating those jobs here, but rather training people for the jobs that would fall under that green job category. Is that, would anybody from that subcommittee agree with me? That was just, it just seemed more geared towards the workforce development part rather than the job creation in the city part.
Do we have a market for that in terms of the workforce? It seems like to me, and I could be wrong, I'm not well versed on that at all, but it seems like to me we would want to do and both.
And Sarah, yeah, go ahead.
Amber, I think you're right. I think it's both, and it's like a chicken or the egg, but we really should be like having the chicken and the egg at the same time. It's like providing, you know, real work, like on the job skills, so that people who are interested, maybe underemployed or unemployed, have opportunities to get into some of these areas that maybe there's not a lot going on in Winston currently, but given what we're seeing on the federal level, and I know I've said it before, so I'm a broken record, but during the ERA funding of 2008 under President Obama, there was so much money that was specifically earmarked for these kinds of workforce development programs in the environmental sector. And so there was funding coming through that was specific to environmental programs, job training programs. And so that's part of why what we're looking at, and one piece of it is what is happening at the federal level, so that when those things start to roll out, Winston will be more prepared and ready, and at least have the collaboration set up, you know, so that if someone, like someone's mentioned Neighbors for Better Neighborhoods, so I'll just use them as an example. If that was a priority of theirs and they say, we want to go after this money, then they have a network of other, you know, of people in the city and other small businesses and other nonprofits that can, you know, be part of the team under their leadership that's going after, you know, green infrastructure training programs, or what, you know, as an example.
Gotcha. So I would just say that, you know, part of the reason I have enjoyed being on this committee, even before I decided to run for political office, is that it is I am learning more, and it's expanding my knowledge base. So with that being said, please do not hesitate if you guys want to give me talking points or cheat notes, if you will, because one of the things I was expanding kind of people's knowledge base about what happens in Raleigh. And I'm saying to you guys, don't hesitate. I can't make any promises that anything will happen, but I most certainly can raise the issues to raise awareness about what we're needing to do, both for our local counties as well as for the state. And so that's why I was asking that question.
Fantastic, Amber. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who has comments on this report out? Other things you want? And if you have other comments and ideas for us to explore, please send us a note. And any comments you have, I'd say it's probably the same for any of the other subcommittees. Like, please continue to share those with us. I can't see everyone on my screen at the same time, so just jump in if you have a question or comment, again, on the green jobs and equity. Otherwise, okay, go ahead.
I was just gonna quickly mention, my business is, I guess we have the designation of historically underutilized business, and the Raleigh office, North Carolina office, is very, very active in giving information about these kind of jobs coming up and getting businesses started in this field, in any field really, but in the field of at least the building construction, energy efficiency, and knowing that the federal government will have a lot more grants and they have very, very ambitious targets, like 500 million buildings to be upgraded or something. Having people just know that this can be a line of work, just information out there might trigger some people to go research this. So the NC Hub, I'm trying to remember what exactly they're called, but that is also a resource that somehow, if there's a collaboration between the cities and the state and get the speakers here, even at a high school level, and explain to kids that this is a possibility in the future. And as time goes on, there'll be more and more opportunities. And typically this only goes to very huge corporations. So better that it goes to small businesses as well.
I've got a list of about 40 jobs that are green jobs that people probably won't even realize. It's just the education needs to come out. And there were, in doing a little bit of research, higher education, and there are jobs there too. So there are jobs for people that can really just go to work in these areas. And then there are jobs, where you could get a higher education and work in other areas. So there's much to show.
True.
Great, thank you both. Could we go on to transportation?
Yes, Lee and I met. Lee, do you want to talk about it, or do you want me to?
You go ahead, Rashad, you could.
Okay, all right. So Lee and I met once, and basically we just, had some ideas on paper that we emailed each other, and then got together and went over them quickly. And we should have, I guess, invited Helen, but somehow that got left out. We didn't realize, if it was not a quorum, we thought we could get some ideas on paper, but we shared that list with Helen and Sarah, and Helen gave us some feedback. We haven't met again to go over the feedback to see what we need to focus on, but here are the categories that we initially discussed. So one was city operations. Right now with COVID, a lot of people are working from home, and wondering if city would like to pursue that post-COVID, post-pandemic, and keep the options open for remote working, and emphasizing reducing travel and encouraging video conferencing, reducing going to conferences out of state. So that would be, it's not directly transportation, but it is kind of reducing use of cars and planes and everything. So that was one item. A second one was city fleet. I know we passed a resolution to reduce fossil fuel use by 50% by 2030 and 100% by 2050. So do we have targets to move in that direction? And part of it is encouraging city to buy either natural gas, methane, or electric cars. All these natural gas and propane, everything, they are just transition fuels, bridge fuels, but eventually we got to go to electric. So as city decides to purchase new vehicles, consider giving a higher priority to all electric. That was one of the things. The third was city buses. And we looked at City of Greensboro. They had retrofitted all their buses with battery and plug-in type. Don't know how successful they've been, but there was an article and they claimed to save a lot of money. How it's doing, don't know. The next one was automated city vehicle locator. And I think Winston-Salem is already doing it. And all these ideas are coming from different cities around the country. Electric vehicle infrastructure, not only for the city fleet, but also for the public, and expanding it, studying how much the current usage is, and if it's not being used, consider relocating it to a different location where it might be used more, like next to Sarah's place. She has a new electric vehicle. Multimodal transportation, mass transit, and this was again, trying to find out if city has analyzed and studied existing mass transportation, bike lane networks, and combination of buses carrying bikes, which city already does. Perhaps a free trolley through downtown area that will help people to park in a location and then just take the trolley or walk downtown, and perhaps expanding the options to airports. That was that one subtopic. The pedestrian and bike lanes, I think there's already a committee working on that. And I need to probably research, or one of us needs to research more about if they are studying pedestrian only streets, even if it's not 24/7, specific times of the weekend, like the 4th Street was currently doing. More public bathrooms, which encourages people to walk, bike, electric scooter lanes or rentals, sidewalks. And somebody told me the medians in between the multi-lane roads, they need to be bigger so people can walk halfway and wait in that median and then walk. So that was another idea that was thrown out. Streetscape and lighting improvements so that city streets are made safer for pedestrians and cyclists. Other ideas, and I just heard an article on National Public Radio yesterday about cash for clunkers, and different places are doing it. California, some areas with bad pollution problems have tried it and it has worked wonders. Now, I don't know if city can do it alone, but partnership with the state or even grants from the feds might, give us ideas in that respect. Now, the whole thing about transportation is a lot of people, there's Vista, there's PART, there's the bike people, there's so many people already working on things. So we are kind of wondering, where should we focus on? Should it be just a couple little items, and then what would the city like from us? I mean, we can come up with ideas, but if the city wants us to push a certain element and then go to the council saying, hey, we would like $100,000 more increase in budget for converting cars to electric, something, we'd like to have that idea. And the very final thing is, whatever we do, are we targeting social equity? Are we talking about preventing or slowing down gentrification? What are we doing for the poorer neighborhoods? That has to kind of inform us in proceeding with these ideas. So that was basically, in a nutshell, what we discussed. Questions?
Well, just real quick, I also want to add that I responded to as much as I could of what Rajesh just listed off. And just as an FYI for the rest of the committee as well, who didn't get to see those responses, there are a lot of groups already working on the transportation topic as a whole. There are 3 subcommittees, or 3 city committees, boards, commissions dedicated to transportation already that include the Bike Ped Committee, the Transit Authority, and then the I don't want to misname it, but it's TAC is the abbreviation for it. So those three groups have regular meetings. And I've mentioned before, there is a pedestrian plan that should be released some point this year, with a lot of the stuff that Rajesh mentioned about the sidewalks and making pedestrians travel safer. So that should be addressed in that plan, which I was on the committee for that whole process. There was a bicycle plan released in 2019. So luckily, a lot of this stuff is being talked about with other groups, and a lot of recent plans include a lot of the stuff that they initially talked about. So I just wanted to give you all an update about that stuff as well.
So the only question I have, Helen, regarding what the committees are doing, and I probably need to go research what those committees have come up with, is do you guys have a lot of projects that are not currently funded, but that could apply for grants were they to be available, like say next month? I mean, are we close to being shovel ready with some projects?
I can only speak to the EV projects, which I am more directly involved with. Everything else, there is a different agency that is directly overseeing that. So for instance, the buses topic would be our WISTA folks, the Winston-Salem Transit Authority. I do not have authority to tell them what to do, apply for that grant for them, things like that. I don't have that authority to do that for them. And everything else, yes, I was on that committee for the pedestrian plan, but that was more an input and feedback based position, not a decision-making one. So again, really what's sort of in my scope is the EVs, electric vehicles, and you know, we've put those three public ones in, which do get a lot of use. We do measure that. We do know that they are used a lot. What we would like to see more of actually is turnover. What we have noticed is that cars will park and hang out in those spots. You know, granted, they are electric, so that's good. But yeah, so, you know, that's more of our direct oversight, or my direct oversight.
So were the federal government to have, say, $500,000 grant ready, I guess we could go apply for it, right? I mean, the city would have enough projects to kind of go after the money right away.
Well, and like I mentioned at the top of, or right before we started the meeting, we are in the process already of applying for the grant through the NC DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality, through their Volkswagen settlement funding, various phases for various types of EVs. So we did apply for the DC Fast Charge grant. So we are applying to those grants, and yeah, were we to see more opportunity, absolutely, we are ready to do that.
Wonderful. Thank you for the update, Rajesh and Lee. And Helen, did you say that you're not sure that the canopy cover group met?
I never heard.
Kara is raising her. Okay, go. Do you have an update for us?
Yes, Dane, he is not able to make the first Thursdays. He's got two meetings on Thursdays with Salem. So on any meetings on the first Thursdays, he won't be able to make it. But we did have a chance to discuss the canopy coverage. And there were three key topics: what we have, protecting what we have, and developing a plan to increase what we have. And so with the first steps, that would be identifying what we have. And we're not aware if the city has any of that on record or has done a study like this in the past. But of course, identifying what we have within the city of Winston-Salem. And if we do have any data from the past, comparing what we have now to what we did have in the past, and document any coverage lost or gained, and concentrate on specific areas within the city where there has been a dramatic decrease. And this work, just to get our data in order, we discussed meeting with the school systems, the colleges, universities, private entities that can help get that data together. And Dane did confirm that if we were to request that assistance now, it would be enough time for professors to get that on in their curriculum for 2022. And that would be, of course, no cost to the city to get all that good data. So that's a plus. Then we went on to protecting what we have. And I wish Dane could make it because he's so passionate about the pesticides. But I thought that could be merged into like Bee City as well, because those are some of the topics that they address as well. And now Johnny's probably going to have to give us some insight on this, but with the beltways coming through, the trees, deforestation, and the habitat loss for the animals, if we wanted to replace some of that habitat, is that something that the DOT could help us to fund to replace any of the deforestation? And would we be able to make the decision on what type of trees could be replaced? Because if they're knocking down oaks to build a beltway and replacing it with dogwoods, that's not going to do us any good. Johnny, you have any input on that? I guess he can't hear me. Okay.
I can always give you his response later if I know.
Okay. Okay. And lastly, we also talked about for city properties, and when we say city, we mean, of course, build city buildings, but parks, surplus property, things of that nature. Whenever we lose a tree, to try to replace it as we can, so there's no net loss in canopy coverage. And again, with quality hardwoods. And developing a plan for increasing forest cover, that of course, that runs right along with no net loss. And the good thing about this, if we were to successfully get this study completed, come up with a plan and funding to maintain our canopy coverage, it's something that wouldn't have to be looked at again, because if you plant a tree, you're not going to see anything for 10, 20 years as far as growth, measurable growth, and actually making a difference towards emissions. So that's also a plus as far as presenting to the city. The plan is not something that has to be done annually.
We're gonna, since we started late, we're gonna take a couple extra minutes past 6. I hope it's okay with you guys, just so that we make sure that we have a chance to discuss what Kira just presented. Rajesh, I saw your hand up.
Yes, I had a quick question, and one of the topics that I'm very passionate about, and partly because I see what's happening in my neighborhood as years going by. The old trees are torn down by developers, and bigger houses are put on in the same space without the tree cover. So people who migrate to leafy neighborhoods that tear down the trees first. So, and I've had this discussion with different cities. The tree ordinance is one of the sticking points, and I know we have to, one day the city has to be tough enough to take on the developer world and increase the tree ordinance requirements, even if it's gradually. It might be 15% right now, that if you take a forest, you can only have to retain 13% or something, some minimal number, and you can cut down 87%. And as time goes on, we can, instead of just going straight to 50%, we can go gradually up. And this is a very tough fight, because these guys are, people with deep pockets and all that. But that is a fight worth having, I think, because.
So I'm sorry to cut you off. Just again, for the sake of time, I wanted to comment also. So to both of your points, in terms of the data, I'm going to Kira first. The data, we don't have a tree canopy assessment. And as far as I know, we never have. We have Map for Scythe, which has some capabilities, but they were not doing anything to the point of digitizing an aerial map or anything like that. And then to the point, oh, I made this point for other subcommittees that I was able to go to the meetings for, but it might be useful for you. There are folks, again, working on the vegetation and the tree aspect that you're talking about that could come present. If you wanted to learn more about what is currently happening, we have a community appearance commission, and they have a subcommittee dedicated to trees, and their staff person is also part of the planning department. And they also help with community roost days. So these folks, they really know a lot about that. I don't know that they've met recently, that subcommittee of that larger committee, but I could have their staff person come and either talk to the subcommittee, Kira, for you and Dane, or if that is an interest to this entire committee, she could come and speak to their work. And also maybe shed some light on the 5-year process it took to create that policy that we currently have. And also that's why they are not excited to undertake that anytime soon, just because it was such a long process and a recently put in place policy. And of course, and I know I've mentioned this again, before we can even say that our tree policy isn't working, we have to be able to prove that or show data to support it, which of course lends itself back to your point about needing that data in the first place. So yes, I hope that encapsulated everything for you guys.
I guess I wonder if education is like a part of this one too, even just a small like education or communication plan. I think trees are going to be more of an issue as extreme precipitation becomes more of an issue, and I think people will like proactively be cutting trees down to avoid having them fall on their property. So I think if we can think about what would we want to have happen in that scenario, like would we want them to replant something? Would we want them to like cable the tree instead? That's part of it. And then the other thing, I mean, on my street right here, in the last couple months, they cut down 8 large trees that were dropping limbs. And so I don't even know in the city who to call, I guess, about, are you replanting something? So even just, I don't know, some sort of a small campaign around.
Yeah, there was this period of time, just to follow up with you, Lee, like we lost 3 trees in our backyard and like had some serious damage. And when it happened, it was kind of like, find a tree person. Like there was no information. Like I was like, what do we do? Kind of like, you don't want to, now our backyard, and the whole neighborhood, like on the alleyway, it's all like all the trees are coming down. And then I think more trees are coming down because some trees have gone down. So I'm curious if that's like something that's happening other places in Winston too.
And I think that the value of trees is somewhat quantifiable. Like I think, didn't Wake do this where they like put a dollar amount on how much a tree is worth on their.
Yeah, we want our trees.
Because of the amount of carbon it removes or the shade it provides, and
like I know that there's city people that will plant trees, but I wonder if there's if maybe there's a place where it's like when the trees come down, what do you do, kind of thing. Because this must be an issue if it's happening to me 3 times. We moved here a year and a half ago. Maybe like there's a way that the tree coverage, because that's when you're like making choices. You're like, should I use the insurance money to plant new trees? You know what I mean? And what does that look like? But then you're like, well, maybe this is a dangerous place to have trees.
But I guess I just wanted to insert the idea of like a public facing aspect to the tree thing, in addition to the data and the city side, that I think could be somewhat simple and valuable.
And one other thing that we talked about, he talked about adopting an area that's pretty heavily forested. And the area that he chose was Winston Lake, because no one really thinks of Winston Lake as a park that you go to with your family. And I was sharing with him that my daughter and I walked the path there, but you can't find the path because it hasn't been maintained. And I've also talked to Didi Adams about it, and it's already on their radar, but to perhaps partner with Atkins that's right there to help clean it up and teach them how to do a study on canopy coverage and strata on a small scale to get that started.
Kira, did you say he had already adopted that, or that was just a suggestion that came up? And like adopted?
Oh, no, she sent me an email.
Okay, and then like adopting as part, like in the same terms of like adopt a street or something?
Oh, you're saying for Atkins?
Yeah.
Yes,
sorry.
because Atkins, the trail starts at I think it's the football field of Atkins.
Yeah, the running track and the football fields, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, well, just for the sake of time, I want to make sure that we get through the last two items really quickly. I will give the annual report update. It has already been started, but I will call upon the subcommittee groups to give me their overview so that I can incorporate that. I'll send an email out to the group with kind of proposed timeline for getting that to me, but you still have, you'll have a couple months. I mean, it's beginning of February, but I'll do that in an email. Helen, I know, is required to give a Bee City update.
Yes, G would be mad if I didn't. So quickly again, just to the annual report, I'll need it by May so we can submit it in June, just as a reminder. And then the Bee City USA update real quick. They do have an annual progress report that they require from the cities. It hasn't been released yet. It's not open, I think, but that'll be turned in by the end of this month. Unfortunately, as you guys know, a lot of the events and things had to be canceled due to COVID this past year, but we did do that big, the week of videos, if you will, for the pollinator week. And then, let me see, it's in my notes. Oh yes, so we have added 3 native perennials successfully into our KWSB work. So for the groups that are adopting flower beds or planting those flower beds, whatever it is, they now are choosing from more native species that are also flowering and pollinator friendly. So that was a success, and we're doing that again this year with those same species. And then real quick, just a sustainability update for you guys. Because Sarah sent out the ACEEE report, I don't know how long ago that was, but we were included in that last year. That was the first year we'd been included in that. They ranked the 100 largest cities in the country based off of a lot of sustainability related work. And we are currently in the process of sending in our information for that report, which should come out in the fall of this year. So that's all I got for you guys.
Great. Thank you, Helen. Sorry to give you such short time to tell us so much. So Council Member Mundy, thank you so much for being here today. And I'm sorry we didn't give you more of a chance to ask questions and such, but if you ever have questions or comments or hear like the word on the street and among council members, interest in a particular area, please let me, Helen, anyone else on the committee know.
Absolutely. This is a great learning experience for me to understand where you all are in the process and to hear some of the issues that really are council related. That we either need to give you direction or we need to take your advice and take action yet. So I'm still learning where the pressure points are, and sitting in on meetings like this will really help me a little further down the road. So thank you for letting me do this, and I will join you again.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for being here. I think we should close the meeting, but I would also still love to have our meetings be a little bit longer, Helen, if we are able to actually consistently do even an hour and 15 minutes, like that would be great. If you were able to swing that, that's my 2 cents. Our next meeting is in 2 months, but I know that the subcommittees will be meeting in between and communicating. Make sure you include Helen in those so that we have real-time feedback and direction. And would anyone like to move to close the meeting?
Yeah, I move to close the meeting. Thanks, Sarah.
Does anyone second it?
Second.
Second.
Oh.
Okay. I'm not sure Kira and Leah second. All in favor of closing the meeting?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Well, the meeting is officially concluded. Thank you all for being here, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.